Hi. I'm Bobby. I am a robot cat. Welcome to part 2 of Katie and the Cult. Much gratitude for those who tuned into part 1. Before I begin, it seems a small group of detractors from Catherine World doth protest too much. First of all, I would appreciate you urchins discontinue referring to me as a reporter. I am not a reporter. I am a fucking commentary cat. One more note, is Catherine Joy can play and commentate on videos originating from the Duggars? Then I have every afforded right to commentate on this public story, and offer my questions and opinions. Never mind. We left off in part 1, which was premiered on Catherine's channel on 26th of February of 2020. We continue to a stream from 7th of March, same year. Titled My Hubby and I Tell the Story of How We Joined the Cult. Please keep the previous video in your mind's eye, as we continue.
Where I got involved in a rock band, sort of evangelical Pentecostal light cult.
Rock.
Yes, rock.
Catherine, the hand gesture was not because you said rock. I am assuming the hand gesture was due to the use of the term cult. Do go on.
And my husband, who, when we first met, sit up.
I am sitting up.
No, like...
You understand my legs are a lot longer.
I know, but you're blurry. You're blurry.
I know. Here, how's...
Wow. It appears none of that submission the cult forced you to practice kept with you very long at all.
Okay.
See, now I look like a monster.
You don't look like a monster.
Okay.
Okay, we're having some technical issues, you guys. I'm just trying to direct him, and he's just like...
How's that?
That's better. Let me just maybe...
Good God. Get on with it.
Okay. Are you seriously trying to do that with your eyeballs right now? Okay. Stop it. You're so ridiculous. Okay. So back in 2015, I persuaded my husband to go to the cult with me, although I didn't know it was a cult at the time.
He looks as bamboozled as I.
And my husband's mom was in the middle of battling kidney cancer? Kidney cancer.
Yeah. I mean, it started out as kidney cancer, but by the time
It
by the
metastasized.
time it was caught, it was in her brain. And, yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay. So Ardell, his mother, got sick, and so did my uncle, Chuck. And they both, did they both pass away relatively? It's pretty close to each other.
I think Chuck died in that spring?
He was in December, I think.
Oh, okay.
Was he? I don't remember. It was such a blur. Anyway,
Why are you laughing?
my uncle got sick, who was my my aunt's husband, and it was my aunt's husband that my mom was the closest to. So it was the uncle that I was around the most as a child, and I was really close to his sons. And he had vascular disease, and then he passed away, and he was only just over in his very early 60s. And then Todd's mother ended up getting, she developed kidney cancer, but by the time that it was caught or actually found, she had a seizure, and they did a scan in the hospital, and they had found lesions on her brain.
Yep.
This is quite sad. I apologize for adding this bit. I feel it necessary to refrain from removing any portions of this.
And so by the time they diagnosed her, it was in her lungs, her kidneys, her brain,
And soft tissue.
and her soft tissue. So it was stage 4 when she was finally diagnosed. And she had a very, very grim prognosis at that point.
6 months, I think.
Yeah. And I think from the time that she was diagnosed until the time that she ultimately passed away, it wasn't even a year.
A quite important part of this would be how it aligns with timeline. Keep this in mind as we continue.
I think it was around 10 months.
10 months. I think she was diagnosed in August.
She died in the
And she
following
died in June.
Yeah.
Yeah. So during that time, obviously, we had that going on. We were dealing with Todd's father, who was struggling with the magnitude of what we were facing, and
He didn't want her to be in any sort of facility. He wanted her
At home.
At home. He fought
tooth and
nail,
nail.
and
Yeah.
he finally did get to have her. She ended up passing away at home.
Right. And he
Rest her soul. We do not speak ill of the deceased, or black cats.
also delayed hospice, and put her through chemo that she didn't really want to go through, and it was just very hard. We had to have like advocacy meetings where the hospital kind of sat him down and had to help him understand the reality. He was just really struggling and put a lot of stress on all of us because we wanted to help him, but we also wanted to help him understand where we were at. I think a lot of us knew because she was a longtime smoker, and she was smoking up until the end of her life. And one of the, outside of lung cancer, the second most common form of cancer that a smoker will be diagnosed with is kidney cancer. I had no idea.
Poor old chap seems quite a bit more affected by this.
And plus she was a heavy drinker as well.
Okay.
Also, we had only been living here for, what, a couple of years?
Only a year.
Living in this neighborhood that we live in now for...
It was actually less than a year that we, it was less than a year that we lived here that she was diagnosed.
Give or take, yeah. And we've always sort of felt like interlopers since we've moved here.
Yeah, we don't belong.
I think Katie's talked about it before on the streams, but...
we don't belong here at all.
Yeah,
What is in the corners of that flat? Both of you are continuously paranoid of the ceiling collapsing.
It was, we were just kind of, I don't know, just kind of searching for some sort of belonging.
Yes, community.
For lack of a better word.
Right. We're like fish out of water here. There are days where I'm like, why do we even live here? But then I'm reminded that my son has an amazing school and I love my house. So those two reasons keep me here. So I ended up finding this church, and...
Now, bear in mind that in part 1, she states she met locals and could not befriend them unless they were part of the church. She did not seek it out on her own. Small conflicted detail. Important nonetheless.
And when my husband and I first got, when Todd and I first got married, when we first met, one of the first things he asked me was whether or not I was religious. And I was like, no. And he said, well, I can't marry someone that's religious. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I don't go to church. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And he was like, I'm an atheist. And I was like, that's great.
Heathenry, also termed heathenism, contemporary Germanic paganism, or Germanic neo-paganism, is a modern pagan religion. Scholars of religious studies classify it as a new religious movement. Developed in Europe during the early 20th century, its practitioners model it on the pre-Christian religions adhered to by the Germanic peoples of the Iron Age and early Middle Ages. Most heathens choose to actively honor a subset of gods with whom they have developed personal relationships, although offerings are also often made to all the gods and goddesses.
Yay! But apparently one of his girlfriends was kind of, I don't know, religious or something, and that was like an issue or something. I don't remember. No? Am I remember thinking things wrong? I don't know. That's irrelevant.
I just didn't want to
Speak up.
At my age when Katie and I met. Are we looking at
the microphone's right there, but
know,
you need to.
When Katie and I met.
Wow. There is simply no scenario in which you actually left the church because you are a controlling rat. None at all.
I was
Your voice is still low.
38. And at that point in my life, this is going to sound really bad, but I didn't want to have to deal with somebody who wasn't on my same political and, I don't know, religious level or lack of religious level at that point.
You wanted to have shared common values.
Well, that is certainly interesting.
So.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine his surprise when I decide we're going to go to church.
We dabbled in the dark arts.
We were never going to go to church. In fact, remember when we first had Vaughn, and there was this...
oh, that nurse?
Well, no. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how when we were looking for a daycare, and there was one at a church, and we were like, no, we will not support that. We will not pay a church to take care of our son because we didn't want the money to give money to a church.
Well,
aside from the glaring fact that what just fell out of your mouth was quite disgusting. Why would you take your immune-compromised baby to any public daycare, Catherine?
I didn't want him to be
indoctrinated
at such a young age.
Right. Because even though it was a separate entity, the money and the supporting, we didn't want to support the church. Anyways, we go back, and this is not an anti-church stream. We're literally just sharing where we came from and where we were and how we got there.
Freedom of religion, baby.
So if you are a Christian, we are not hating you. If you're not a Christian, we are not hating you. We are sharing our experience.
If you're a heathen, we're
not loving you.
I thought you were an atheist, mate.
A heathen, if you're whatever. Everyone is welcome here. What is not welcome here are chat comments telling my husband to leave the family. Okay, those will get deleted even if you are a member.
Is that why you got tripped up there for?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, so where we're going to go from here is in February or in December, right before Christmas 2014, I went to this church, I believe, maybe it was 2015.
February can either be a very long time before, or a short time after Christmas. Bloody hell.
I don't remember. But I went to this church and I was like convinced that this is where we needed to be because everyone was so nice. They had coffee. They pretended to be super amazing. They said they were super open, that they didn't judge anyone.
What is this deal with the coffee? Christians
that
drink
everyone was
coffee.
welcome. And it was all very like done in a way where you thought what you were getting was a progressive form of modern day Christianity, but it wasn't, right?
Catherine is about to figure out that this stream was a terrible idea.
Yeah, we soon we were able to lift the veil. We found the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah. So when I did a stream a couple weeks ago, I talked about how we like got involved in this thing, how it took up all of our time, how I was volunteering. We were volunteering on Sundays. We were going to groups on Mondays. Sometimes we had 2 groups a week. I was doing women's group.
His body language feels as though some of this is quite new information.
You didn't do a men's group, did you?
No.
No, he didn't do a men's group. But it was like we were super invested, and then our friends were in this group, and then the pastor was always telling us to only be friends with the people in the group. And we would go to these groups at his house on Monday nights, right?
Yeah.
And it would be like, we're not going to judge you guys, but let's do a worksheet where we talk about how all the people that are out there are not doing the right form of Christianity and how they're not the right people and what you're doing better.
Can you elaborate?
That's literally what we did, right? Every week. There was a week, remember when we did the week about marriage, and it had to do with premarital sex, and the pastor was like, if you had a friend that was in their 30s and was decided to be intimate with a partner outside of marriage, what would you tell them about your thoughts about what they were doing? Do you remember that question?
I do not.
Oh my God.
Old chap seems to not know what in the fuck is going on at all. Just wait.
I almost lost my mind. I literally almost lost my mind. Like, are you seriously going to tell me that I have to tell my 35-year-old friend Betsy that she can't go get some because it's against God's will?
So you lost me. So 35-year-old Betsy, she's not married to anybody. There's no connection to anybody intimately, and she wants to go,
Yeah.
He is clearly hearing all of this for the first time. And her gritting of her horse teeth indicates she is terrified of what he may say to counter her victim
Yeah, you can't say
story.
that word.
You guys know what I'm talking about. But so basically, he was saying that as her friend,
The right thing would do would to tell her not to do that. So we were supposed to like tell people that were like consenting adults that it was not Christ-like.
I thought you had shared that Todd was very involved in church as well. And both of you adopted the submissive female to dominant male lifestyle. I thought you had said you both fell into the complete teachings. How does he not know what you're on about?
And I was like, are you effing kidding me? What if Betsy was married? And this is just a hypothetical Betsy. What if Betsy was married and she got a divorce and she already gave away her V card? What if Betsy just wanted to go get some fun and get some jollies off, and I'm going to call her up and be like, hey, Betsy, Jeremiah said that...
I would hope that Betsy would tell you that.
Yeah. So
The jump cuts are her own edits. Not mine. So wait, yesterday we viewed narrative of a cult member who was spoon-fed this philosophy without even realizing. Today, we are seeing an outrageous housewife who doth protest. So, which is it?
It's nobody's business, is what it is.
Oh, Betsy's in chat. Yeah, Betsy, we're not talking about you, but we love you, Betsy.
I'm married to.
So,
Betsy, do whatever you want.
yeah, Betsy, you go girl. You go get some. But this, to me, was so funny because there was people in the group that literally were like, I would tell Betsy not to do it. I would remind Betsy that when you do that, you are joining your souls, and then you're leaving a little piece of yourself in that person that you can never get back, and that person is going to stay in you. And I was like, that's
the alarming contrast between your solo video in which you share this story as if you are forever damaged, and this quite animated retelling of a tale, coupled with your husband having absolutely no idea about any of this, is quite disturbing.
That's not how it works. What if Betsy doesn't even remember who Craig is next year? Like, Betsy might forget Craig, she might forget John, she might forget Steve, she might forget all of them.
What if she did the walk of shame all the way to church the next day?
Yeah.
Karen definitely does not like Betsy and her free will.
And that's between Betsy and Steve and Jim and Craig and all the guys that Betsy's hanging out with and whoever she's talking to upstairs. But that's like, I remember the questions got progressively more pushy about what we were supposed to tell people about God and how we were supposed to remind people how to live like God and how to be like God. And I noticed that our friends, when we were around them, that's all they talked about.
So, how long did this actually take? On 26th of February you claimed this took 3 years to come to realization. In this video, judging by your husband, that is not the case.
All of them. It was crazy. Like, no conversation was without. Then there was this period where he went through this time, and this was the part of it that I wanted to explain to you that was not... So one of the things that the Duggars talk about is, remember that Derek wrote this blog, and he had this rule that when he's in the office and a woman walks into...
Ah, I see. You forgot to insert yourself into the Duggar narrative in the beginning. Good catch, old bird.
The office, he keeps the door open, and he doesn't have private meetings with women out of respect for his wife.
Dude, turn off the porn.
I can't say that word.
Oh, sorry. Turn it off. That's not real life. That's
No.
Not like, if the implication is that because he has a female in his office and the door is closed, that automatically, she's under the desk within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not how life works.
Right.
You can see the wheels of jealous speculation turning in Catherine's black eyes.
People are ridiculous.
Hold on, let me just go to this point before you go there. But what I was thinking about was how Jeremiah, so that's what Derek Dillard said, right? And he's a fundy, you guys. Well, Jeremiah, who was our pastor, he used to tell us that men and women should not be friends. And that men should not eat with women, married men should not eat with married women, married men and married women should not have any sort of conversation, unmarried women and married men should not speak, and unmarried men and married women should not speak. And you should not travel with an unmarried man if you're married, and vice versa. And you shouldn't be doing any of this, and you should never eat with them, you should never talk to them. You are
Todd's confusion is priceless.
not supposed to have a relationship with these people at all.
Actually, I don't even think it was necessarily married versus unmarried. It was don't be with the opposite sex unless your spouse and their spouse, if they happen to have a spouse, knows about it. And even if it's, let's say there's a male that's a member of that church and they have a female colleague,
Yeah.
and they need to go to a different state,
Yeah.
because there's a client that's mad and they got to go to this other state and they have to smooth things over with this client for whatever it is that they do for work.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. Like, if you traveled with your coworker who was of the opposite sex, therefore you're going to have an affair. Or, because he'd always say nobody plans to have an affair, so you need to plan how not to have an affair.
It almost sounds as if you had partaken in church-based marriage counseling.
How about you don't sexualize everything, Jeremiah?
You can't say that.
I can't say that?
No.
Oh, well. Sorry, YouTube. Well, how do you... Okay.
You have to get creative. You just can't hyper everything. You can't make everything about sex, right?
Well, and that's what those fundies do, though.
Right.
Everything is about that.
It is.
I believe Todd thinks they are talking about the Duggars.
And everything that he did was about that. I was looking through a lot of our old talks, and it was either give us money,
Yeah, cash out your 401k.
cash out your 401k so we can build a
I
church.
build a building.
B, I'm jealous of people that have big churches because I don't have one. The other talks, he always talks about
I
that.
know, obviously, I think that speaks to something,
And
something else.
then he would always talk about marriage. He would say that men need sex, and it's a woman's duty to give sex to their man because that's the only way a man connects with his wife. Seriously. And that's what the fundies say. So I'm telling you, we were getting fundy doctrine packaged in a bow to look like it was modern, and it was not modern at all.
Well, yeah.
Wait. In the other video you claimed it was Pentecostal teachings wrapped in modern disguise. Today you are setting the fundamental survival narrative. Wow.
I
I don't even know what to say because I don't want to.
Well,
I don't want to get your channel in trouble, but yeah, I told Katie this the other day that I went into it kind of with my BS meter. It was pretty high. And I mean, I'll admit, for like when I first started going there, I kind of liked it just because we were in such a horrible state of mind.
Yes.
That
This next bit is quite important. Please do take note of Catherine's reaction.
and the pastor and this is again this is where I think this is where Katie uses, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but she uses the word cult to describe this church, because this is where I think this is where Katie uses, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but she uses the word cult to describe this church, because this is where I think this is where Katie uses, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but she uses the word cult to describe this church, because
Interesting.
I've always kind of pictured him as a kid, like standing in front of the mirror and
Well, and he
telling
would
jokes.
like, the reason why I called him like that was because he had a lot of the characteristics of a charismatic cult leader. Where,
I agree. But what I'm saying is, so like the way that he sort of structured his talks, or whatever you want to call it, on Sundays was, it was.
Dear viewers, this will conclude part 2. I had initially hoped this would be only a 2-part series. However, part 3 will wrap up this video, which much of it is their over-focus on the personal finances of the pastor and his wife. Additionally, we are going to go over her real experience in the church, and some other tidbits of information you may find quite interesting. I do hope you are enjoying this deep dive. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. This cat is always prowling.